Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge has been a game I've been waiting for quite some time. I actually had to check the date of when the game was first announced to see how long this virtual eternity of waiting was, and I was kind of shocked to realize it's only been a year and a few months, having been first announced March 10th of 2021. Has it really only been that short length of time? I could have sworn it was over 2 years, but thanks to 2020 syndrome, all the days and months seem to blend together these days. But I'm pleased as fucking punch to finally be able to enjoy this classic style beat 'em up. The publisher, .emu, while not having a hand in development this time around, unlike with the modern day classic Streets of Rage 4, I'd assume they had high standards for Shredder's Revenge's developer, Tribute Games, which worked on the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World game, even though Ubisoft is listed as the developer on most online listings I see. The other stuff listed on their wiki is pretty much unknown to me, but now they can add this great game to their resume. So upon starting up Shredder's Revenge, we will be treated to this badass cover of the classic 1987 theme song, which is done by famed Faith No More vocalist Mike Patton. And the song accompanies this wonderful video intro cutscene. And with this level of quality, you know you're in for something memorable, nostalgic, and just plain fun. You can decide from here if you want to experience the arcade or the story mode, the arcade mode being a no-save limited lives outing, but I went with the story mode because, you know, saving is nice. You'll get a handy training session, and then we'll be introduced to the game's cast of selectable characters, which consist of the 4 turtles, of course, and Splinter and April O'Neil, all of which are thankfully voiced by all their original 1987 voice actors with the exception of April. Renee Jacobs was the original voice actor, and I'm not sure why she couldn't make it, but why not Veronica Taylor from the 2003 series? Just a perplexing omission, and it's probably a union thing, and most of the time it usually is, like with Turtles Forever. But anyway, we'll get into all the character gameplay styles in just a moment. But after selecting your character, the story begins, and Bebop informs us that the Statue of Liberty is getting a makeover in a very big nod to the most popular Turtles beat 'em up that inspired this very game, Turtles in Time. So now we have 2 games that revolve around the Statue of Liberty. In Turtles in Time, it was straight up stolen by Krang, and though not centered around it, in the Genesis game Hyperstone Heist, it is shrunken down to the size of a model along with the rest of the city. So you head to the Channel 6 news building and you get a stage intro screen accompanied by a voiceover that reads you the name of the level with a silhouette of the boss and a not so subtle throwback to Turtles in Time. The presentation is already on fire, and you haven't even played a single stage up to this point. The Channel 6 news building is a new setting that surprisingly never turned up in any of the old Turtles games. Well, finally, here we have it. So you will be bashing in the skulls of numerous foot soldiers, and you'll notice you have pretty much the same arsenal moves from Turtles in Time, such as your basic combo attack, the dash attack, a sliding move, and that old 2 classic throw, including the one where your enemy is sent flying toward the screen. If the game didn't have that, I would have automatically dismissed this game as an inept failure and immediately disposed of it like an empty canister of mutagen. You have a special attack too, and thankfully, this time it doesn't deduct from your health. Instead, it is earned by hitting enemies to build up a meter and avoiding getting hit so it doesn't reduce. However, you can just simply perform a taunt and the meter will automatically fill. I've heard some rumblings online that this breaks the game and ruins it because it makes it way too easy. Now, of course, you need to avoid getting hit during the taunt or it won't work. You have to complete the full taunt, but to all the people putting up a stink about it, don't use it. Simple as that. I mean, it's a shoulder button move and it's pretty easy to avoid. Not like you can accidentally press it if you don't want it. But besides the controversy, there's even more special moves to unlock. 2 for every character, in fact, a special flying attack and a special diving attack. You see, this game actually has a rather unique leveling up system, where every certain amount of points you earn will reward you with not only a level up, but a prize. Either an extra HP point, an extra life, and even an extra special slot. It's pretty unique how you level up your character RPG style. Can't remember the last time I saw that. Once you get your character to level 8, you'll not only be able to store up to 3 special attacks, but you can unleash Radical Mode, which uses up all 3 specials and instead gives you increased strength for a brief moment. Combat is just so much fun in this game, and every hit, animation, and move looks great and is super satisfying. So how do these characters handle? Well, all of them have 3 stats: range, speed, and power, with a star rating from 1 to 3. So I'd say the 4 turtles are pretty much the same stat-wise as they were in Turtles in Time, and I'll say that was done intentionally. Leo and Don have good range, with Don having the best range out of every character, but slow as molasses. Leo is the most balanced, Mikey is the fastest, and the one I used the most in my first playthrough, but he does have poor range. Raph has poor range as well, but is a damn powerhouse with good speed as well. Seriously, screw range. A combination of power and speed is all I need. Splinter is just awesome to finally control, but he is so damn slow, just like Donnie. He has bad range, but is maxed out on strength. April is so much fun to use. She is the weakest of all the characters, but she's fast and has 2 points of range, making for a pretty effective character. I love her flying kick that hits numerous times, making for some nice air juggles. And man, it is surreal seeing her as a playable character as opposed to her typical damsel in distress role. But it's cool to see her playable and as fun to use as she is. When you finish the story mode, you'll get Casey Jones, whose stats are utterly fantastic, with not only 2 points for power and speed, but maxed out on range. So you'll be hitting everything in sight and doing it quickly and with decent power behind it. And sadly, his original voice actor, Patrick Fraley, who also did the voice of Krang, is not in this game, and that really is unfortunate because he was one of my favorite voice actors in the entire series.
Who cares?
So let's talk about these retro-tastic graphics. They're so mesmerizing to look at, especially these detailed backgrounds. There's a really good selection of stages with varying locations and themes, plus unique traps that set them apart from one another. You'll be fighting in the zoo, the museum, on rooftops, skateboarding, along roadways, soaring through the air on hoverboards, and battling foot soldiers in the mall, and even taking a trip to Dimension X. And you'll have to contend with not only foot soldiers, who of course have varying weaponry and attack patterns, just like in the games of old, but Triceratons, a variety of robots, such as Roadkill Ronnies and Mousers, and of course the supervillains awaiting you at the end. Just to give you a good example of all the nuance, take the zoo for example. Besides a variety of foot soldiers, they're stampeding animals and even monkeys throwing bananas at you in cages. You'll notice that if you got hit by a lot of the animals, you'll get a failed challenge prompt that pops up. That's right, each stage has a collection of challenges that if met will reward you with additional points to level up. So not only do you have to avoid the animals to accomplish one challenge, but You also must avoid having these whip-bearing foot soldiers grab you, as well as these robots ensnaring you with their cables. The game does a good job of giving you extra incentive to keep you on your toes, but it's entirely optional as well. There's also collectibles to be found that you can give to characters who will reward you with more points. You'll need to find these characters first, and usually they're locked behind a door that you need to break open. There's Burn Thompson, Vernon, Irma, the Punk Frogs, and the Neutrinos, all looking for their belongings. So there's extra incentive to break the environment's objects at any given moment to find these characters and their collectibles. There's a ton of stuff to break and smash, but to be honest, I think they could have made the environments even more destructible, like tables and other structures. There's plenty of stuff that looks like it could and should be destructible, but it's not. Not a big problem, but I figured it is a nitpick worth mentioning. I like the little touches they throw into the stages, especially with the foot soldiers, how they'll be cooking on the cooking segment set inside the Channel 6 building, or the foot soldiers operating the cash registers inside the mall, giving the game personality and that comedic touch that the original cartoon was known for. Going from stage to stage, I love how you have the world map and you're driving the turtle van from place to place. It's cool to see an actual map of Manhattan, and it just makes things more lively and adds to the already great presentation. Does anyone think that it would have been awesome to be able to actually drive the turtle van in a stage, or at least part of it? We've yet to see this since the first NES game. I think it would have added even more variety. The music is simply one of the best OSTs I've heard in quite some time, and we've got Sonic Mania composer T. Lopes giving us banger after banger on this phenomenal soundtrack. It's pretty much what I expect from Turtles in Time if the game was capable of using real-life instruments, but T still mixes in retro sounding chiptunes for good measure. Plus, they actually got Wu-Tang Clan members Raekwon and Ghostface Killah to record a track for the fight against Shredder.
Dangerous metals highlight the reign of terror. The twilight meets the reign of Shredder. All for one and train together. The dark clouds and the strangest weather. Breaking news, the front line sprayed with ooze. No sunshine, only dangerous rules.
There's actually a handful of vocal tracks here, including one of my favorite tracks on the OST, Mutants Over Broadway. Plus, I love how T remixed the Turtles' lair theme for when you want to visit the lair, which is basically an assortment of menus to view your challenge and collectibles progress. Honestly, it's one of the best OSTs I've ever heard, and it's a testament to just how good T. Lopes is as a composer and musician. I hear a really big synthwave influence on this OST, and it works really well. If I had to pick a favorite track, I'd probably go with the stage music for A Few Screws Loose. The bosses are of a good variety of the most popular villains, and of course there's many you could name that didn't make the cut, but Baxter Stockman, Metalhead, Slash, Wingnut, Leatherhead, and the Rat King are all here. Although many of these appeared in Turtles in Time, bosses like Groundchuck and Dirtbag weren't, instead only appearing separately in Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project on the NES, but here you fight them together. Plus, Wingnut appeared in the now discontinued Mutants in Manhattan game. Not sure how many people actually played that game. I know many people online said they didn't really like it, and it was critically panned. The game was discontinued for unknown reasons only 8 months after its release, and a Google search still results in 0 answers of why this happened exactly. Strangely enough, the rights to TMNT were soon sold to .emu afterwards, so good old Wingnut now gets the prominence he deserves. Sadly though, his partner in crime, Screwloose, is not along for the ride. Chrome Dome makes his first ever appearance in a Turtles game, and that's long overdue. Captain Zorax is making his first appearance, and he's brought along his crew of Triceratons for the Dinosaur Museum stage. Strangely enough, this is the first time Triceratons are appearing in a console beat-em-up game based on the 1987 series. One did appear as a boss in Tournament Fighters. Now, one may think they appeared in the Manhattan Project because of one being featured so prominently on the cover, but despite this glorious artwork, none actually appeared in the game itself. There is one as a boss in the Game Boy game Radical Rescue, however, but it's not Captain Zorax, just a random Triceraton. Even Tempestra, a rather obscure villain, shows up, and she summons virtual versions of Toka and Razor to assist her. Sadly, the only villains that have their original voice actors are the Rat King and Razor, who are voiced by the same actor as Mikey. Even if Razor's voice clip is just a grunt, at least we can say it's an authentic grunt. And Bebop and Rocksteady, because they're the same actors who perform Donnie and Leo respectively. It's kind of hard to complain with this rather large list of villains, but I would have really loved to see Mutagen Man. First and foremost, you can't have everyone, but even Mondo Gecko, although he later would become an ally, would have been nice, along with Scumbug and Muckman. Probably the biggest omission would be Lord Dreg, who took over the role as lead antagonist toward the end of the series. I certainly wouldn't have minded them reaching into the action figure exclusive line of villains such as Worm and Pizza Face as well. I want to add that I'm happy that they finally got Slash's appearance right this time around with the metal mask instead of a black bandana. They always had him with a black mask on in Turtles in Time and the Manhattan Project, also in the Archie comics and the action figure. I think they based everything off the action figure in the games and comics for some weird reason, maybe to get it to look closer to the Turtles bandanas. Also, back to the story, you may have noticed that at the end of the first stage, Rocksteady made off of Krang's android body's head. And this is a theme that keeps persisting throughout the stages as multiple parts of his body are transported around by various villains. And I was a bit confused because why is he all disassembled like this? But then I thought continuity-wise with the classic cartoon series itself, and in the very last episode of the series, Divide and Conquer, Krang's android body was destroyed, so it makes perfect sense that his body would now need to be rebuilt. Once you make it to Dimension X, you'll fight Krang in his complete body, and he'll reveal to you that chasing his body parts around was just a diversion. You'll soon find out that while this chase was going on, Krang's forces were giving the Statue of Liberty a full-on robotic makeover, as Bebop suggested in the beginning of the story. I like this progression from Turtles in Time, where Krang just wanted to steal the Statue of Liberty. Now he's decided to just use it as a weapon. He now calls his creation the Statue of Tyranny, which is just perfect. Definitely something you would expect from Krang in the show. The opening melody to accompany the boss theme is a villainous sounding Star Spangled Banner. Once again, T-Lopes delivers. This fight really isn't that hard at all, even without super attacks. Once you take him down, you'll take on Super Shredder, who is really not that bad once you get his patterns down, but I like how he's only vulnerable once he's overextended himself. So good luck finding time to get a taunt in. Plus, holy shit, that final boss theme is a treat for the ears. I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed that the Statue of Tyranny and Super Shredder are basically the final stage. There is no real actual stage to progress through, so once you enter the stage, you're fighting against Krang. It would have been nice to have to fight your way up to the top of the building to face him, maybe do something like have his hands reaching through windows or breaking through walls to try to grab or punch you as you make your way up to the roof. So at 16 stages, this game really doesn't last long, especially with the last stage not even being a full-on stage. But I have said it in the past, that a long game does not make a good game, and a good game doesn't have to be long. It's all about using time effectively and getting the game's goal across, and Shredder's Revenge does a fine job, a more than fine job, of getting this game's goal across as being a wonderful revival of the classic Turtles in Time Hyperstone Heist gameplay, with a triumphant return of the most popular era of the Ninja Turtles. It could have been longer, yes, it certainly could have, but there's definitely enough fun to keep you coming back for more. But I really hope .emu is not opposed to giving this game some DLC, because there's plenty more they could do, and why would they want to leave money on the table? But in the end, I'm just happy that it turned out as good as it did. Going into Dimension X, and fighting in the abandoned destroyed Technodrome is a very big highlight of this game, and something very unique to this game, especially since it was rare for the Turtles to actually go into Dimension X in the show. It's very clear that a lot of care was taken with the game, and it has an overwhelming respect for the games of old and for the precious source material it utilizes. So guys, let me know what you thought of the review and your own experiences with the game down in the comments below. Click the like button if you enjoyed the video, and click the dislike button if you fucking hated it. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all the notifications when I post all my new videos, and I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. And thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.